We're going to begin with new pressure on Boeing amid reports about that Boeing 737 MAX 8 crash and whether the certification process for the plane was compromised. Sully Sullenberger also weighing in, and our senior transportation correspondent David Curley tracking all the latest. Good morning, David.
Good morning, George. These investigations being launched this morning as we're awaiting the investigators in Ethiopia to determine the cause of that crash. Is it related to Indonesia? And Reuters out this morning with a report of someone who's familiar with the cockpit voice recorder from that first crash.
The frightening new details this morning are from the first 737 MAX crash, Lion Air, in Indonesia. According to individuals with knowledge of the cockpit voice recorder, the pilots struggled with their quick reference handbook, a checklist for abnormal events, and they simply ran out of time. The day before, a crew on that same jet did shut off the anti-stall system, which was the problem. But it was reportedly a pilot riding along in the jump seat, according to Bloomberg, who had to point out the correct procedure.
The previous pilot flying that aircraft, he had a similar situation. He took the appropriate action, turned off the electronic system, and controlled his tail manually and landed the aircraft, and then went to maintenance and said, hey, we've got a problem with one of the sensors, and they clearly did not replace it and repair it properly.
With the second crash in Ethiopia and clear similarities to Lion Air, Secretary of Transportation Elaine Chao has now asked the department's Inspector General to conduct a formal audit of the certification process by the FAA of the 737 MAX. That news coming just hours after the European Union announced it will look into Boeing's software upgrade for that anti-stall system very deeply, very closely.
We will not allow the aircraft to fly if we have not found acceptable answer to all our questions on both sides, whatever the FAA does.
Canada also announcing it will conduct its own certification of the software update before letting the MAXs fly again. Boeing and the FAA have also been called out by the hero on the Hudson. Captain Sully Sullenberger, writing in MarketWatch, says the FAA has a cozy relationship with Boeing, which is hurting the credibility of the agency. In too many cases, he says, FAA employees who rightly called for stricter compliance were overruled by FAA management, often under corporate or political pressure. But a former FAA official says that goes too far.
The statistics really are overwhelmingly in favor of our current system, and that we've had a single fatality in 100 million flights in the United States.
So, David, what do they expect this new investigation to focus on?
George, it'll probably be a broad review of the certification process, which has been used for a couple of decades, but they may zero in on that anti-stall system because it asks the plane to do something very dramatic, and it's based on one point of data, which experts will say is not a good idea. They don't like that. Was there pressure to approve that? Now, the Boeing upgrade of software for the MAX that is coming will have multiple points of data that would actually trigger that anti-stall system in the 737 MAX.